R2-D2 needs little introduction. Being the literal only droid that girlfriends with no clue about Star Wars would recognize, he's obviously an icon at this point. Obviously, I wasn't alive during 1977 when the original Star Wars came out, but I can only imagine how it must have felt to see this little guy run through the Tatooine desert, making his adorable beeps and boop sounds, all while being absolutely set on completing his mission to get the Death Star plans to Ben Kenobi. That's certainly how I felt watching A New Hope for the first time. Like nowadays, I think a droid like R2 might very well just end up being some cute background character or such, but not R2. He's literally part of the main cast. Or, if you believe George Lucas, he's the most important main character in the entirety of Star Wars. Let's recount some of his feats, shall we? He saved Anakin, Padme, and the squad on Episode 1 by fixing the shields on the Naboo ship to allow them enough time to escape to hyperspace. Else all of them would have died and there would be no Star Wars saga. He was then the personal astromech droid of Anakin during the Clone Wars, accompanying him on countless missions and campaigns across the galaxy. Also, he was in D Squad. Yeah, we won't talk about that further. I liked Gregor, though, in that arc. Also, he went with Yoda to the literal center of the galaxy and discovered the origins of the Force with the Force Priestesses, always being the loyal droid you know you can count on. If there was a right decision to make, you could count on R2 making it. If you needed saving, you could count on R2 doing everything in his power to do it. Then he obviously was there during the confrontation between Anakin and Obi-Wan before becoming the hero of the rebellion by bringing the Death Star plans to Obi-Wan, which ultimately leads to its destruction. Also, in the Dark Empire comics, R2 was directly responsible for the destruction of 4 different superweapons: the Eclipse II, the World Devastator, the Galaxy Gun, and Trigon 1. Hell, you could even classify him as a superweapon at this point. He witnessed so many galactic events, and it's still being argued whether or not he can remember them or not. Some fan theories even suggest he has PTSD from all the stuff he's seen, because, let's be frank, no other individual in the entire galaxy had witnessed this many different monumental galactic events like him. And the most impressive thing about it, he has no special powers, no lightsabers, nothing. He's just a droid with a sense of heroism, and we all love him for it. He doesn't ask for recognition or fame, he just rolls in, saves the day, and beeps off into the sunset. So let's be real. If you had a personal droid who could hack into anything, fly, and electrocute people when they get annoying, you'd never let him go either. That's why you could do that now and buy your own LEGO R2-D2. There's several buildable versions of him, although the 2 UCS models stand out the most for sure, and are the most detailed. So yeah, R2-D2 isn't just the most recognizable droid in Star Wars, he's the most popular for sure. Period. His feats are legendary, and him and C-3PO are the only droids that have appeared in every Star Wars movie that's come out to date. Except for Solo, but we'll let that slide. Also, here's a funny picture of someone who has painted a trash can like R2, which I found strolling through the streets of Chile. I dubbed him R2 Trash 2. Real original, I know. K2SO. Okay, I don't think there's any droid that has had quite as much of an emotional impact as him. It's just something about his personality that's always resonated with me quite a lot. His very direct way of talking, where he always says the truth no matter how hard it is, his sarcastic remarks, his kinda don't care attitude, but deep down he actually does care a lot for those around him. I just like this droid a lot. And I'm not alone with that. He was first introduced in Rogue One as a reprogrammed Imperial droid, and I think ever since Rogue One, and especially with Andor now, he's become a fan favorite and well deserves to be on this list. He's part of the KX series of Imperial security droids, and we see him during the Gorman Massacre, just how powerful these units truly were. Unlike R2 or C-3PO, that weren't really made for combat, but had to rely on their wits and such to get themselves out of sticky situations, K2 was just that. A droid built for combat. He had incredible strength and could easily toss humans into the air like he was throwing a ragdoll, and was made of carboplast, an extremely durable material that could withstand light blaster fire even. K2 also got his own hallway scene that was very Darth Vader-esque, where he single-handedly takes down the ISB Special Unit Squad to go and save Cassian. Also, because he was reprogrammed in Rogue One, it's quite funny that they ran with it as a glitch and allowed you to reprogram them in Jedi Fallen Order, where the KX droids would then start fighting for you. But yeah, of course, the thing that truly cemented K2 as a legend was his sacrifice. After infiltrating the Imperial base on Scarif, he single-handedly holds off an entire Stormtrooper squadron while trying to direct Jyn and Cassian toward the Death Star plans. His death was just so sad, and I genuinely think he had one of the most heroic deaths there was. I think LEGO also realized how popular K2 is, as they've recently, with the release of Andor Season 2, made a buildable character of him. Although he does look a bit odd, if you ask me. I prefer his Bionicle-esque one from 2016. Its head just looks more like K2 in my opinion, and I even own it. Also, as a bonus Easter egg or random fun fact, I always found it quite cool that his first words after being reprogrammed are hello, and his final moment before being overwhelmed at Scarif is goodbye. Goodbye indeed, my friend, that I never got to meet. A hero you shall forever be in our hearts. Statement: should we find something to kill to cheer ourselves up? Recognize this quote? Yep, it's none other than HK-47, the most popular assassin droid in the Old Republic era. Introduced as Revan's companion in the Knights of the Old Republic game, he quickly became one of the fan favorites due to his extremely sadistic way. He's an assassin droid built by Darth Revan after the Mandalorian Wars, and HK stands for Hunter Killer, which obviously was his primary function. HK-47 was built from the ground up to murder things and then mock them for dying poorly. He craves seeing the meat bags, as he refers to organic beings, suffering at his hands. Also, he had a very funny way of talking, always starting the sentences saying statement or qualification, describing what he's gonna do, then suggesting casually to slaughter an entire village or ask to test his blaster on a random passerby. This dark humor of his did make him really funny to me. Not that I support slaughtering villages, but his casual way of going about killing people I just found funny, and a lot of Star Wars fans definitely agree. Besides fighting, he could also slice things and was proficient in 6,000 forms of communication. As a fighter, he was incredibly capable, being able to use any blaster given to him proficiently, and even had several different techniques to assassinate Jedi. When going up against Jedi, he mentions how he first uses concussion grenades, poison gas, sonic screamers, and such, as they can't be deflected by a lightsaber, and also breaks their concentration. He figured out that targeting a Padawan would often result in the Master sacrificing themselves, and took advantage of that as well. So yeah, what else could you want as a companion than one of the most capable droids in the entire galaxy? Hell, if he can go up against Jedi, there's few people he can't go up against. Legit, he's one of my favorite parts of the KOTOR games, and I really wish LEGO would one day release an Ebon Hawk with all of Revan's companions. Meanwhile, I got myself a custom LEGO HK-47, which looks really awesome. Coming back from a towering giant like K2, here's BD-1, who could easily fit into a backpack. He was introduced in the Jedi Fallen Order as the loyal sidekick of Cal Kestis, and is basically like your little dog that follows you around. Only that this dog can splice Imperial stations and also can throw stim packs your way if you need that extra boost. He's a BD Explorer droid, whose main strength is to be an assistant for researchers and explorers. BD-1 used to be owned by Eno Cordova, a Jedi Master who took him into the Outer Rim world Bogano to find out about the ancient Zepho. However, when they encountered danger, Cordova left BD-1 behind, and BD stayed on Bogano until Cal Kestis came around. After trusting Cal, BD became an indispensable part of his life. What makes BD great as well is that he's super light and can easily grab onto the shoulder like a pet monkey. But BD-1, similar to R2, far outclasses any regular BD unit who maybe make good assistants, but BD-1 is just super adaptable and actively tries to help Cal to the best of his abilities. For example, BD will just be sitting on Cal's shoulder while he's literally fighting Inquisitors and patiently wait for Cal to tell him to throw a stim pack. Furthermore, he can act as binoculars. He projects Cal's maps, he hacks KX series droids to make them fight for Cal by casually jumping on top of them. He gives tips on how to solve the puzzles, meaning his AI is very advanced and actually intelligent, and he can act as a handle to hold on to when traveling across a zipline. And the best part about him? He's just a morale boost. If Cal is feeling down, count on BD-1 to come in and just elevate the mood with his cute way. How isn't this the greatest droid? Due to that, LEGO also made a life-size version of BD-1, which you could put in your office or bedroom. Looks pretty sweet, doesn't it? Genuinely think it's probably the most accurate droid LEGO model compared to its real counterpart. Now LEGO, just give us a BD-1 that can actually hold on to my shoulder. Staying in the Old Republic era, in comes T3M4, yet another one of Revan's companions. He was a utility droid that was at the time one of the most advanced droids when it came to slicing and code-breaking computers. Due to that, T3 could gain access to almost any high-security base, as he could always override their codes. Furthermore, he could help navigate starships similar to how the modern astromechs worked. T3 became part of Revan's team early on Taurus, where Revan brought him in to help infiltrate the Sith base. From there on, T3 kept accompanying him on all his missions during the search for the Star Forge, visiting Kashyyyk, Manaan, Tatooine, Dantooine, Korriban, and finally Lehan. T3 was extremely loyal and was also upgraded by Revan to have a built-in blaster and flamethrower to defend himself. Even following the years of the Star Forge's destruction, T3 and HK-47 remained the only companions that were still with Revan on Coruscant. When Revan had his nightmares about the Sith Emperor, it was also T3 that accompanied him to Nathema. After Revan's capture, T3 decided all by himself to return to Coruscant and try to find help, finding Mitra Surik and then also helping her defeat the Sith Triumvirate as her most loyal companion. When she took T3 to Dromund Kaas to rescue Revan, he gladly went along to the Sith homeworld as his sole focus was rescuing his friend. Sadly, this would be his last trip, as he heroically sacrificed himself by distracting the Emperor when Revan was unconscious. His sacrifice did save Revan, but ultimately, Revan still ended up being captured, meaning his sacrifice didn't amount to anything, which I found very sad. That's just another one of the flaws of the Revan book, though. Despite his sad end, I'd say he's one of the greatest droids in the galaxy, thus why I put him on here. Like, bruh, he literally lived through and was right there when the Star Forge and the Sith Triumvirate were destroyed. Also, shout out to this Redditor for his incredible T3M4 mock. I will gladly try to recreate it. IG-88 is the first assassin droid that was ever introduced to Star Wars, standing in the background of the Executor for a few seconds, but fear not, as he easily shook off his Glub Shido status and became one of the most recognizable and fan-favorite droids. He was an IG unit, which were known for being some of the greatest assassin droids in the galaxy, and when he was created, he instantly had a hatred for all organic beings, and wanted droids to rule the galaxy. He killed his creator and uploaded his consciousness into 4 different bodies, where the one we see in Empire had become one of the greatest bounty hunters in the galaxy, as a distraction for the other ones that were preparing a droid army on Mecha 5. On the Executor, he managed to gain insight into the Death Star 2, and even had his consciousness uploaded into the battle station, ready to use it and take control over it when the time was ripe. However, Boba Fett, over time, destroyed all of his bodies, and the Death Star Wars destroyed by the rebels at Endor, killing IG-88. Despite not having much of a character due to him almost succeeding in taking over the galaxy, a lot of fans started to really appreciate him. Also, similar to Boba, his really cool look helped him in that department a lot as well. Cool looking droid who's incredibly capable of killing people? Why not? Sounds like a great concept. He's even often requested as a hero character in Battlefront, and yep, I'd sign off on that. Also, if it weren't for IG-88's popularity, IG-11 in The Mandalorian probably never would have happened. Proxy was introduced in the Force Unleashed games as the companion of Galen Marek. As a proxy droid, Proxy was able to project different holo images of basically any characters in the galaxy, and also imitate their fighting form. He had several different powerful Force users uploaded into his database, and could imitate fighting forms and figures of people like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul, who were thought to be dead at that point. With the help of tractor beams and repulsors that were built into his body, he could even imitate force pushes and lightsaber pulls. Due to that, he was a perfect training partner for Galen Marek. However, there was one big flaw with Proxy. His primary programming required him to try and kill Galen as Vader had programmed him that way. Due to that, Proxy would often suddenly start challenging Galen to a fight in an attempt to kill him. Despite never succeeding to defeat Galen and attempting to kill him, Galen was quite fond of Proxy, as he was his only companion when growing up. The secondary order of Proxy was to serve and obey Galen, which was a conflict with his primary programming, but somehow, Proxy managed to challenge Galen at the correct times and serve him when necessary. Over time, Proxy seemed to have developed a genuine affection for Galen as well, but the conflict with his primary programming to kill him often had him confused. He even apologized to Galen for failing to kill him, as he saw that as a failure to his programming. But yeah, despite this flaw, Proxy is still pretty cool, and certainly one of the strongest droids on this list. In an act of heroism, he even challenged Darth Vader in order to save Galen, although he knew he had no chance. Thus, Proxy is well deserving on this list. Chopper is not an R-series droid, but in fact a C1 series droid. Although there are some visual similarities and serve the same role as an astromech droid, his designation was C110P, and he was a rather old droid whose parts were replaced by several different scrap parts over time, resulting in his third retractable leg to be replaced with a wheel even. That's why he looks like a patched together mess of colors and plates, but that only adds to his character, I'd say, and was probably the intention behind his design. He was owned by Hera and became part of the Ghost Crew, which is probably one of the most impactful rebel groups that went up against the Empire. On the Ghost, as was usual for astromechs, he was responsible for repairs and maintenance of the ship. However, he also went far beyond just these simple tasks that he was programmed to do. He frequently can be seen shocking stormtroopers and such into unconsciousness with his shock rod whenever he deems it necessary to help his friends. However, due to his old age, he developed a rather combative and, might I even say, psychopathic personality. Unlike R2, who seems very balanced and well-mannered, who only acts when thinking things through, Chopper seems far more impulsive, just acting however he feels like it. I swear, he's borderline sadistic and enjoys seeing other people suffer. Here are some examples. In one instance, we see him drive over Ezra's hand while he was struggling to hold onto a ledge. Fully intentional, mind you. He also pushes a droid he doesn't like out of the Ghost's ramp mid-flight just because he can. If we take into account that droids are sentient, he basically just killed the other droid with full intent. Furthermore, he just keeps shocking the other members of the Ghost Crew just for the fun of it. Now tell me he isn't a psychopath. However, behind his psychopathic ways, there's still a droid that deep down wants to do what's right, and stands fully behind Hera and the Spectre crew, and had saved them on countless occasions by even risking harm to himself. Thus, there were redeemable factors for him, and a lot of people really like him for it. Personally, I never liked him much to be honest, but I do recognize his strengths. There's also a buildable Lego Chopper. He looks fine and scales well with the R2-D2 and C-3PO sets. C-3PO. The sidekick of R2, as I usually see him, is of course the Golden Protocol droid who, despite the odds, has somehow survived every event the Star Wars galaxy has thrown at him, and complained about it every step of the way. But we still love him for it. Seriously, what more iconic line is there than "I am C-3PO, human-cyborg relations"? Even if you've only seen 5 minutes of Star Wars in your life, odds are you've heard that in his signature uptight voice of Anthony Daniels. I also friggin' love how Anthony Daniels literally always comes in and voices him in almost every type of media C-3PO ever appeared in. C-3PO, of course, was built by Anakin Skywalker as a protocol droid who's fluent in over 6 million forms of communication. This makes him the half-brother of Leia and Luke, which I always found a bit of a stretch, but hey, weirder things have happened in a galaxy far, far away. But what truly makes C-3PO stand out is that he's the definition of a reluctant hero. He's the guy who just wants a quiet existence as a protocol droid, and ends up stuck in the middle of galactic wars, rebellion uprisings, Death Stars, and desert planets with angry sand people. Throughout the prequels, the Clone Wars, the original trilogy, and even the sequels, 3PO somehow finds himself on the front lines on the Battle of Geonosis, wandering through the Malevolence, being kidnapped by Cad Bane, or encountering these weird tree things called Kendalos. Just like R2, he's seen some stuff, and also becomes the reason that the Empire falls. If it weren't for him talking to the Ewoks and being seen as a god by them, our OT heroes would have all been eaten, and the Empire would have destroyed the Rebel fleet at Endor. In general, he's very loyal and obedient, doing things that he doesn't like or fears, but he always comes through. His relationship with R2 is also just the best thing ever, and that's why he's right up there with R2 in the Hall of Fame of droids. LEGO also recently made a buildable C-3PO that scales incredibly well with a buildable R2, which isn't the UCS one, by the way. Don't they look great on the shelf together? Finally, the last droid on my list is AZ-3. Before I get into him, yes, there are several other droids that deserve a shout out and could have made the list instead of AZ, but for me, AZ had to be on this list, period. But now first, shout out to IG-11, who was one of my favorite characters from The Mandalorian, but I didn't want to have both IG units on this list. T-701, one of the friendliest droids ever. He'd apologize if you accidentally bump into him. Also, he was the only one present when Vitiate was defeated. B2 Emo. His stuttering and caring way about Cassian just had something about him. Huyang, droid teacher. I don't know, he seems cool. Mr. Bones, a competent B1 battle droid. R0GR, a funny B1 battle droid. And BB-8, because he's cute. If I missed anyone you like, let me know. And now back to AZ-3. He was a medical droid on Kamino who served as an assistant to Nala Se. He could float and also transform himself into a speeder for someone to ride. Most importantly, though, AZ was present when Tup arrived, who had accidentally executed Order 66. Alongside Fives, the greatest clone ever, AZ slowly helps him uncover the conspiracy behind the inhibitor chips and almost succeeded in uncovering Palpatine's master plan. The arc of Fives and AZ investigating the Order together are some of the greatest episodes in the Clone Wars, and AZ's personality was just adorable, serving as a great sparring partner to Fives. Always trying to say how impossible certain things were, yet still kept helping on. He later also joins Omega and the Bad Batch, but I'll leave his fate open to avoid spoilers, I guess. To round it off, AZ always went above and beyond what his original programming intended for him to do, and he became a hero in his own ways. This, and because the Fives arc was my favorite in the Clone Wars, AZ is the last entry on this list. Like and subscribe.